The slides will follow in a moment. Okay. I'd like to welcome all of you to Overflow. We'd like for your life to be overflowing with happiness, overflowing with joy and meaning and purpose. We don't want us to be just enduring the week, okay? We want us to be enjoying with all the passion of our beings. Whatever is happening in our lives and whatever our situation is, we don't want circumstances to be determining our joy and our happiness. We like to be in this state of abundance. We like to be in this state of overflow all the days of our life. And we're now on lesson 3. This is actually a series on discovering happiness or discovering grace. Okay? Because some of you have the lessons, but we didn't have the chance yet to really go through them point by point. What could be the most important truths you can ever think about? Okay, and so we are spending time trying to discover how can you really live the more abundant life. Because if you're not living the more abundant life, if you're not overflowing with happiness and joy, okay, you're just existing. You're not really living. Your heart is just beating and pounding. But if you're all stressed out and you don't know where to go and you don't know what to do, and you don't live a life that makes a difference, you don't live a life that creates an impact in the lives of others, that's really not God's purpose for our lives. So once again, this is a series on discovering our happiness. Discovering happiness. Last Saturday, we talked about discovering our identity. Okay? And what we've learned, I just share one point from last Saturday. In God's eyes, He sees us only one way. God is not like us, wherein we have many labels. Oh, He's a VIP. Okay? And there's a parking slot, and it says VIP only. And you say, oh, I'm not VIP, I can't park there. Okay, we have labels. And labels could be anything. It could be based on your profession, could be based on your accomplishments, could be based on your career, can be based on anything. But when God sees you, He does not see you as Filipino, Caucasian, rich, poor, educated, non-educated, Baptist, Catholic, Iglesia ni Cristo, Adventist, born again. We have all those labels. Ay, ano ba siya? Ano yan? Ganito siya. Okay? When God looks at you, so you see someone, yung mga ugat niya, puro butas na. Anong tawag mo sa kanya? Uy, drug addict yan. Drug addict yan. Pag nakita mo naman na hating gabi, nandun pa sa kalye, tapos yung suot niya ay parang kita mo na lahat, anong tawag mo sa kanya? Oh, kalapati na mababa ang lipad. Diba? Right? So, based on people's behavior, we have labels. And then based upon those labels, that's how we treat people. Tapos nakita mo siya, naka-Americana, naka-Armani, parang $3,000 yata yung suot niya. Ooh, big shot yan. Okay? Sir, good morning ma'am, sir. Okay. Ganun naman yan. So, uso yun sa atin. Labels. Tapos kita mo, nakabarong. Tapos parang yung kanyang nakapamada pa, and everything. Oh, ano siguro yan? Ewan ko mo siguro. Okay? But this is the thing. We label people, and we label people according to their behavior, their profession, or their lot in life, their background, their accomplishments, their failures, or their successes. Okay? But when God looks at you, He's got no labels. Ang tingin lang sa iyo ng Diyos, you are mine and you are my child. You are mine. Whatever has happened to you in the past, medals, no medals, okay? Even though you're enslaved by drugs or alcohol or gambling or sex, or even though you're drugged by your profession, okay, or by your work, sabi ng Panginoon, I only see you one way. You are my child. Okay? Ngayon, yung anak ng Diyos naman, may dalawang klase lang. There are two kinds of God's children. And you'll find this in the story of the prodigal son. Merong mga anak ng Diyos na wala pero nakauwi na. Meron naman mga anak ng Diyos na wala hanggang ngayon, nawawala ka din. Pero anak pa rin ng Diyos. Why am I emphasizing this? Because many times the emphasis is, pag nawawala ka, hindi ka anak ng Diyos. Hanggang hindi ka nakakabalik, hindi ka anak ng Diyos. But the prodigal son tells us, nung siya nawawala, anak pa rin siya ng kanyang ama. Yun nga lang, anak na nawawala. Kaya siya hinihintay at kaya siya hinahanap. Pag yung nawawalang anak, hindi naman sa iyo, hindi ka maghihintay. Hindi mo siya hahanapin. Okay? Kasi hindi naman siya sa iyo at saka hindi mo naman siya anak. Okay? Pwede rin kasi nawawala. Di ba? Nawawalang stranger. Okay? Hindi mo hahanapin yung nawawalang stranger. Hindi lahat ng nawawala, hinahanap. Ang hinahanap mo, yung nawawala na sa iyo. Okay? And because we were made in the image of God, we have the DNA of God. Kaya ang tingin ng Diyos sa iyo, kahit napakarami mong pagkakamali, anak ka niya, na mahal ka niya, at importante ka sa kanya. So yung nakikita nating drug addict yan, ang tingin sa kanya ng Diyos, anak. Okay? That person is a child of God who is enslaved to drugs. Okay? So what defines that person is not the drugs. What defines that person is the fact that that person is made in the image of God, and that person is very important in the heart of God. O halimbawa, hinalay, na-rape siya, ang tingin mo, ako rape victim. You're not a rape victim. You are a child of God who was horribly abused. Okay? So the abuse does not define you. It is simply what happened to you. It's not who you are. You are a princess. You are a child of God. Okay? Si Osama bin Laden, terrorist yun. Okay? But Osama bin Laden, child of God who was seriously and miserably, truly lost. Okay? Pero yung ginawa niyang terrorism, it does not define him. What defines him is the fact he was still a child of God, made in the image of God. Why is this important? Because how you see a person is how you will treat a person. Ulitin ko po yun, ha? How you see a person is how you will treat a person. And how you see yourself is primarily how you will see others also. Kaya, if primarily you see yourself primarily through your profession, you will see others primarily through their profession also. So if you see yourself primarily as a child of God, in spite of your failures, in spite of your accomplishments, you will see others primarily as God's children also. Pero pag ang tingin ko sa sarili ko Catholic, ang tingin ko sa inyo non-Catholic. Pag ang tingin ko Baptist ako, ang tingin ko sa iyo non-Baptist. Pag ang tingin ko sa sarili ko Christian, ang tingin ko sa iba na hindi Christian, non-Christian. But when I see myself a child of God, and the fact is we have one Father and all are His children. You're a child of God, but you've decided to believe this way or that way. You're a child of God, but you chose for your sexual preference to be this or to be that, but I see you a child of God. And we are family. Let's grow together and get to know who our Father really is. Okay? Kaya sama-sama tayong lalago. So that's what we've studied last time. Now, just straightforward, we'll go to our lesson. This is lesson 3. We're answering the question. What's question number 1? What is sin? Why is it bad news? How serious is it? Okay, let's answer. Number 1, letter A. Lahat po may outline, ha? Very important. It's very important that we all have outlines. Okay, here you go. Number 1 and letter A, sin is not simply what? Doing bad things. Rather, it is the evil. It is the evil of turning away from the eternal, all-sufficient, and all-satisfying treasure that God is. So it is turning away. In other words, it is rejecting. Okay? That's what sin is. Now, let's continue. And it is what? It is exchanging Him for something or someone else that is definitely temporal, insufficient, and worthless in comparison to the treasure that He alone is. Kasi pag sinabing, uy, huwag kang gagawa ng masama, kasalanan yan. Ha? Huwag kang gagawa ng mali, kasalanan yan. Kaya paglaki natin, anong kasalanan? E di paggawa ng mali. But, ang kasalanan talaga ito. It is when you turn away from the eternal, all-sufficient, and all-satisfying treasure that God is. To help us understand, go to your outline and let's read the verse. Jeremiah, what does it say? Be astonished. What is astonished in Tagalog? Astonished. Hindi surprised. Mamangha. Ano ba? Magulantang. Alam niyo magulantang? Be magulantang. Okay? Mataranta ka ng gusto. Okay? Be astonished all ye heavens. Na kung ano kaya yan, nakakagulantang na sobrang kagulat-gulat. What is it? At this, and be horribly afraid. Ano naman yung horribly afraid? Hindi lang yung matakot, masindak. Alam niyo yung masindak? Ha? Yung sobrang nakakatakot, mga sindak kayo o mga langit. Okay? For my people have committed 2 evils. Number 1, they have what? Forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. And number 2, they dug for themselves wells. What kind of wells? Wells that cannot hold water. So the greatest evil there is in the universe is turning away from God, who is supreme treasure. And then you exchange Him for something or for someone which or who, in comparison, is of no value. In comparison to eternity, in comparison to all sufficiency, and God being all satisfying. Kasi po, si Jenica nasa Palawan na. She mentioned, or she posted something on Facebook from Jonathan Edwards. Si Jonathan Edwards. Ganitong sabi ni Jonathan Edwards, the most pleasurable experience on earth is like a rain. Okay? It's like a rain. And God is the sun. Di ka ba kinilabutan doon? Yung pinakamasaya, pinakamasarap, pinakamatindi, hindi mo malilimutan na experience sa buong mundo, sa buong buhay mo. Isang sinag lang yun. And God is the sun. Tapos ipinagpalit mo yung sun doon sa isang sinag. Which is, it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. It's a vapor. Okay? In the wind, a wave tossed in the ocean. It's like a grass. Nandyan ngayon, bukas, wala na. Kaya yun ang malaking kasalanan. Ipinagpalit natin ang Diyos. Okay? Hindi naman masama yung boyfriend, hindi naman masama ang girlfriend, hindi naman masama lalo ang pagmamahal ng nanay o ng tatay o kaya ng family. Kaya lang, we made them the center and most supreme in our lives. Siguro, hindi nga center ng buhay mo ang alcohol, hindi center ng buhay mo ang drugs, hindi center ng buhay mo yung nakakasira ng katawan. Ginawa mo namang center ng buhay mo ang religion. Ginawa mo ng center ng buhay mo yung trabaho mo. Ginawa mo center ng buhay mo yung pagmamahal ng family. In comparison, all of those are insufficient. All of those are temporal. All of those, in comparison to the infinite treasure that God is, they are considered non-treasure. Pero sabi natin, we walked away from God and we dug our own wells. I am in charge of my own happiness. So yun ang sin. It's not just doing bad things. So you don't have to do bad things in order to be a sinner. In order to commit sin. Okay? Number 2, or letter B. Sin is the refusal to obey God's law. Okay? Sin is the refusal to obey God's law. Alam niyo ba, ang 10 Commandments ibinigay nung time ng Israelites. But before the time of Israelites, meron na law of God because the law of God is eternal, it's universal, it's from all eternity. Now, what is this law of God from all eternity? Okay? It is the law of God na all creation is commanded that God is central and supreme in everything, in all things. Yun ang supreme law of God. Now, sin is the refusal, basahin po natin, sin is the refusal to obey God's law, to make Him, who is the infinitely delightful treasure of the universe, as our utmost passion, highest joy, supreme delight, and paramount value in all things. That's what sin is. When you disobey the law of God, to make Him, who is the desire of ages, the pearl of great price, okay, the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley, the desire of ages, you refuse to enjoy Him above all. That's what sin is. Yun ang pangalawa. And the verse is Matthew 22. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Ibig sabihin, when you love God with all of your heart, you value Him above all. To love is to treasure above all. So when God is not treasure above all, and you have a greater treasure than God, yun ang sin. Kaya hindi mo kailangan pumatay. Hindi mo kailangan manakit ng tao para magkasala. Go to letter C. Letter C, sin is the declaration that there is not enough delightfulness or desirableness or goodness or excellence or glory in God and His reign for me to be most what? Fulfilled in Him. So sin, super ano mo ito ha? Super wow. Sin is the declaration, whether in word, in thought, or in deed. Sin is when your life declares God is not enough. There is not enough delightfulness, desirableness, excellence, wisdom, power, righteousness, or glory in Him for me to be most happy in Him. Lord, kulang ka. Mas napapasaya ako ng cellphone ko, ng Facebook ko, ng asawa ko, ng boyfriend ko, ng bahay ko, ng kotse ko, ng BMW ko, ng aking name it. Okay? And when you are satisfied with your religion, more than you are satisfied with God, yun ang pagkakamali ng mga Pharisees. Okay? Yun ang napakalaking kasalanan. When there is something you enjoy more than you enjoy God. So sin, if you look at the verse, okay, Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and what? And have fallen short of the glory of God. When the glory of God, when the love of God, when the presence of God, when the holiness of God, when the character of God is not your utmost enjoyment, you're living in sin. Doesn't matter what day you go to chapel, okay? If God is not your supreme enjoyment, you are living in sin. Because what you're saying, Lord, there is something more enjoyable than you. There's something more delightful than you. There's something that excites me more than you. There is something that gives me more meaning in life than you. So when you tell a person who feeds his children 3 times a week and puts them to school and obeys traffic laws, and you say, you are sinful to the core. Anong sasabihin niya? Bakit? Ano bang ginawa kong mali? Pinapakain ko yung anak ko. Pinapaaral ko sila. Hatid sundo pa yan. Okay? Pag stoplight yan, yellow pa lang, nakastop na ako. Paano ako naging makasalanan? So if sin is doing bad things, hindi nga siya makasalanan. But if sin is enjoying something more than you enjoy the glory of God, we're all sinners to the core. When we enjoy something more, when we delight in something more than we delight in who God is, that's what sin is. It's falling short of the glory of God. Kaya sinners talaga tayo lahat. Okay? And then go to letter D. This is the result beyond. Man's refusal to obey God's law. What is God's law? Enjoy Him above all. Okay? That's God's law. Enjoy Him above all. Treasure Him above all. Now, our refusal to obey God's law turned us into what? Into rebels. We became rebels against the government of God. Pag naging rebel ka against the government of God or against any government, okay? Nakalagay dito, and it made us what? Made us unworthy. Okay? Another word for unworthy is undeserving. You're now disqualified. You're now banned. Okay? Our rebellion made us unworthy to receive any blessing from God. Like what? Like a breath of air, a ray of sunlight, a particle of food, or a single heartbeat. You don't deserve one single heartbeat because of your rebellion. Because of my rebellion. We don't deserve one ray of sunlight. That is the consequence of sin. Because you're now serving another kingdom. You're now loyal to another master. That's what sin is. You're saying, God, you're not enough, and I'm turning my back away from you. And that refusal, that disobedience, places you in the position of a rebel. Ngayon, pag rebel ka sa isang gobyerno, you have like in Canada, when you become a Canadian citizen, it's like citizen forever. Ngayon may bagong ruling na ang Canada. Pwedeng i-revoke ang citizenship mo. Okay? Pwedeng i-revoke ang citizenship mo. Hindi lang you will be denied the privileges of a citizen. Your citizenship will even be stripped. Okay? Narinig ko yun from someone who just came from Canada. But what I'm trying to say is this. If you become rebel against the government of God, you are no longer worthy to receive any blessing from God, even the smallest benefit. Okay? Explain natin yan. Go to letter D and Romans 6:23. Now, if you don't deserve one heartbeat, and your heart no longer beats, what's going to happen? If you don't deserve one ray of sunlight, and from this time on, you'll never see the sun anymore. If you don't deserve one particle of food, and from this moment on, no more food for you. If you don't deserve one drink of water, okay, and from now on, no more water for you, what's going to happen? You're going to die. So look at your outline. What does it say? Romans 6:23, the wages of sin is death. And Ezekiel, what does it say? The soul that sins, it shall die. It will be the natural consequence of being a rebel. Okay? God, you made yourself unworthy of His blessings. So as a result, you are going to surely die. Go to letter E. What does letter E say? Being unworthy, undeserving, banned, and disqualified to enjoy one single heartbeat, we have now forever what? We have now forever lost the chance to know and enjoy God as our infinite and supreme all-satisfying treasure. Kaya, very sad and very tragic ang sin. Very evil ang sin. Why? Because the fruit of sin, the result of sin is this eternal loss of opportunity to ever know God again as the supremely all-delightful and unimaginably desirable treasure that He is. That chance is no longer there. Wala na. Okay? And what could be more tragic than that? Now, here's what more tragic, letter F. There is absolutely nothing we can do to what? To cancel or to reverse the result of our rebellion. No matter how repentant you are, whether repentance, confession, or obedience, it will not cancel the result. Okay? It will not cancel the result of our rebellion. We will always be unworthy. We will always be disqualified. We will always be banned. We will always be undeserving to receive even the smallest blessing that comes from God. Now, because there's no point talking about God's pardon and we don't even know how serious sin is. And we don't even know what sin really is. Okay? And so we took the time. Point number 1, what is sin? And what is sin and how terrible sin is and how serious sin really is. Now go to number 2. What is question number 2? How did a loving God deal with the legally condemned sinners while maintaining His justice at the same time? Okay, so that's the next question. Okay, I'll give you time to answer. God dealt with the problem of rebellion. How? By sending His Son Jesus Christ to be our what? 2 things. To be our substitute and also to be our representative. Now, because Jesus has become our substitute and representative, all our rebellion and disobedience were placed on Him. Because He's the representative. Okay? So, every rebellion and every sin and every disobedience that we have committed, that we are committing, and will ever commit in our entire lifetime, the consequences of all those, they were placed upon Jesus Christ as our substitute and representative, and He bore the consequence that was due to all undeserving and unworthy sinners. And so, His death paid for the penalty of how many sins? It paid for the penalty of all the sins of whom? Of all the people, or all the sinners, in what? Or where? In all the world. Okay? So what happened at the cross? Jesus bore the consequences. He paid the penalty of all the sins of all the people in all the world. So you look at your outline. Here's our verse in 2 Corinthians 5:23. For He has made Him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in Him. Substitution. Okay? Go to Isaiah 53:5 and 6. But He was wounded and crushed because of His sins. He was wounded and bruised for whose sins? For our sins. Okay? He was beaten that we might have peace. He was whipped and we were healed. All of us have strayed away like sheep. We have left God's path to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid